Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Glad you're here. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like.
Also, check out the podcast. Haberman, that's him. Middlecoff, that's me, down below in the description.
John, when the draft happened, I did not expect we'd be talking about making a video of the 49ers 7th round pick, but everyone wants to talk about Jauan Jennings and find out if he can make this team, if he can contribute to this team. So here's our Jauan Jennings video.
Well, you kept hyping him up. I'm like, Guy, 7th rounders. I'm not paying attention. But then, like you said, the internet, watching social media, PFF had him ranked really high. I'm like, okay, let's check him out. And then you check him out, you go, damn, this guy, was really, really productive in the SEC. So you usually find those guys definitely in this draft, right? All the guys that were productive, that were draft eligible in the SEC in his range went in the top 3 rounds, and this guy go in the 7th round. You got to ask yourself, how did he last that far?
All right, so is this just a result of every team's fans just love guys who they think they got sleepers? Or is there something real here? This is what you referenced, John. Pro Football Focus, take a look at an article about some of the best draft steals. Had him ranked 70th on their big board. What Jauan Jennings does in an open field is a sight to see and makes us wonder how he fell this far in the draft. But Kyle Shanahan surely isn't mad he did. He lacked straight-line speed, but was incredibly difficult to bring down. Last year broke 30 tackles, 59 catches. Suddenness is remarkable. He'll fit quite nicely. I don't know if we agree that his suddenness is remarkable. His vertical was 29, which is not great. His 40 time was over 4.7, which is not great. But he does make play. It's easy to see right when you watch it what Kyle Shanahan likes about this guy.
Well, I think one thing we've learned in the last 2 years, Kyle Shanahan has a football erection for YAC, yards after catch, and he loves physical wide receivers because, like you said, this guy's not a great athlete for NFL standards. Would you and I take a 4.7 40 or a 29-inch vertical? Of course. But in the NFL, at wide receiver, that is looked down upon, right? 4.60 is slow, let alone 4.72. 29-inch vertical is not great.
Brandon Ayuk had a 40.
That's a good example of that's explosive.
I think it was the best receiver vert at the combine, Ayuk.
What this guy does possess, right? He's 6'3", he plays big, and he's very physical with the ball in his hands. In the SEC, right, it's not a soft conference, so you're lowering your shoulder on contact. You're not going up against wannabes. So a lot of these yards, when you watch them, because sometimes I think in college, a little bit in the pros too, but definitely in college, you can have a yard number that goes, well, you're kind of wide open all the time and, the scheme. But what happens when, a guy like Jauan Jennings, who's not really getting open, a lot of these yards are either coming after contact or in contested areas.
This is the SEC leading receivers, John. A few recognizable names on the list ahead of Jauan Jennings. Chase, Jefferson.
Have you heard of these guys?
It's a hell of a list, John. It's a hell of a list.
Yeah. And listen, you just ripped this. We're not making this list up, and we're not comparing him to these guys.
Good point.
We're not putting him in those guys' category because he doesn't belong to be in their category as prospects. But in terms of production, whether you look at receptions, whether you look at touchdowns, and when you look at yards, those are the names on the SEC database, including Brian Edwards. When you look at touchdowns and yards, and receptions, who was drafted in the 3rd round by the Raiders, like a lot of guys that either went back to school that are going to be first rounders or guys that were 1st or 3rd rounders in this draft, and that's where his production lies.
Yeah, I think the question with him is he a steal in the 7th round, or is he in the 7th round for good reason, right? Like, you look at these numbers, you understand why he's drafted. I don't think either one of us is saying, did they just get a 2nd or 3rd round level receiver? I know we're not saying that. The question is, did you get value for the 7th round with this guy? Is it a player that's going to end up on the field?
I think if we did a study right now, guys running over a 4.7 40, they just don't play in the NFL wide receiver. So he's going to have to take advantage of his physical attributes, which is, to me, the only reason, his size, why he got drafted. Because if he was 6'1" with the same production, same measurables in terms of speed and the jumps and the explosion, he would not have been drafted. But when you're 6'3", we just give you a bigger leeway in terms of taking flyers on guys late.
Yeah. The question is, did they draft a guy who has a lot of things that say he's an undraftable player, or did they get a guy who maybe could have gone a little earlier, but the outside of the height, the measurables kept him from getting drafted? Maybe the measurables and a couple of incidents. 2016. I had forgotten Brady Hoke was the coach at Tennessee for a second.
Me too.
But he has an Instagram video railing against the coaches, gets kicked off the team. They bring him back, is really productive for them in 2019, gets suspended a game by the SEC at the bottom of the video here for stepping on an opponent's head. Philip Fulmer, who is now the AD at Tennessee after the fact, said, he's been great for our team this year. We stand by him. We'll honor the suspension, but we stand by Jauan Jennings. So this is just
that is one of their rivals. You know,
it is Vandy. This is part of what would be in a scouting report, right?
Yeah, to me, the thing with Brady Hoke being kicked off the team, Jeremy Pruitt, the new coach, let him back on the team. There are sometimes some uncomfortable incidents that happen, and it happened with countless guys in this draft class with coaching turnover. In this, it's just something you got to dive into when you're interviewing him, and I'm sure the Niners talk to him on Zoom. Like, you just got to be comfortable. Is this guy a hothead? Does he? Because he's had now. It's not just one incident, right? It's multiple incidents over a career. You just want to feel comfortable that when you put a draft pick on a guy, he is now 49er wide receiver. He represents your team.
Yeah. So that said, we bring it up because that's part of the scouting report. John scouted, right? That would be in the conversation. You would ask him. He's probably got asked multiple questions about it by multiple teams.
For sure.
I don't think that stuff is the reason he ends up in the 7th round, right? I think it's some of the other stuff you talked about. But let's see if you guys agree with us on that. And this video is basically broken up into two things, John: contested catches and yards after the catch.
Well, wouldn't you say anything down the field with him is going to be contested?
Yes.
In the SEC and definitely in the NFL. Every DB he's going against, probably for the last, since he's entered college, is faster than him. And a lot of guys, to me, would be dramatically faster than him. Now, he's got good ball skills. He uses his size well. And that's, to me, to make it in the NFL, he's just going to have to overpower people in contested areas. Now, this is a good example, guy. He's tracking the football. Again, when you're not very fast, finding the ball in an area with the DB fell there, but there are going to be constantly guys in his hip pocket. He's going to have to find the ball, high point it, catch balls over his shoulder. It's if he has any chance of making it, that's going to be a point of difference for the kid.
As you can see, these first three videos were from the ESPN draft day video.
Well, to me, there's a good example of like PFF says suddenness. You don't see any suddenness there.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but
I mean, a Scout Haberman can see that. He's a one-speed guy, but what does he do there? You can throw it up higher than everyone else, and he can go get it.
What are you saying about Scout Haberman?
Well, I'm saying you nailed it. Like, he's just a one-speed guy.
Yeah, I guess part of my question is, are NFL DBs going to be able to – these are contested catches in college. Are they contested catches that get broken up in the NFL?
Well, to me, you'd have to throw it even higher, but that's the other problem.
I'll throw it higher for you.
Jump.
You want it higher? How about a walk-off touchdown? This is 2016.
He does high point the ball well.
Yes, he uses all 29 inches of the vert, you'd say, right?
Yeah, and he's got good ball skills. This is – can you imagine the feeling getting a walk-off touchdown in the SEC on the road on a Hail Mary? That's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, my God.
I do think
Alvin Kamara is crying after this game.
Was Kamara on the squad here?
Yeah, Kamara's on the team.
Is he going to be quick enough to play in the slot? Because he's not fast enough to play outside, but you have to be pretty sudden to get open in the slot. It'll be interesting to see how they use this guy, because I don't know exactly where his role is going to be.
Time for YAC. I mean, you mentioned it. This is, what'd you say, at a football hard-on? That and toughness, we know, is what Kyle Shanahan is proving to really value in receivers, and you see both in him.
Well, when I talked to a scout that went through this school, the one thing the word he used is a high-level competitor. And to me, physicality obviously comes with that. I mean, this to me is like the defining play of the video.
Well, he was really good against South Carolina. That first play, this is on the same drive as the last play.
They got multiple NFL DBs, guy.
Well,
now you don't pay corners to tackle.
I guess my question is, do you put that play? Let's watch it one more time, and then I'll give you one more play here. It's one thing to get hit by 29, 53 linebacker, 24. Oh, welcome to the party. But what about running into a wall, John? Can we back this wall up? Can we get some excavation out here, please? Oh,
No, the hit he takes by this safety or corner, I can't imagine it's a corner. It's got to be a safety. It looks like Cam Chancellor coming over. How do you hold on to the ball? You're right. But I think, you know what Philip Fulmer, well, Fulmer might not tell you, but the other ADs that are in charge of business would say, how do you think we get 100,000 plus in this bad boy? We don't, we got to utilize all the space. You're right, though. I mean, once you put the camera guys there,
oh,
God.
camera guy's lucky he didn't suffer the Alex Smith injury on this play.
How about this angle?
Whoop! I spit.
Do you think you'd last long in the SEC?
I wouldn't last long in the SEC as a security guard right underneath the uprights.
That's an underrated pass there.
By the way, good move, ESPN's camera guy on this shot, not on the field, right in the stands. That was a great throw.
You're right.
Hey, by the way, where's Kinlaw on this play, Middlecoff? There he is.
Oh, getting a little pressure?
So, I can watch this replay all day. I mean, look, the other part of this is the Niners. How many receiver spots are open, right? Is he?
Well, I think you have 3 1,000,000% locks.
Yep. Debo.
Well, I guess Bourne could always like get traded or something, but I
put him
doubt
as a
it
lock right now. Right?
Yeah, I'd say Debo, Ayuk, absolute locks. Bourne, I mean, about as big of a lock as you can be without being a total lock. And then, you know, if you want to keep, depending on how many tight ends and running backs you keep, you just gotta. You're not going to keep 6 wide receivers. You don't have 6 NFL wide receivers. Jalen Hurd,
Pettis,
Dante,
Richie James.
If I had to guess right
Trent
now,
Taylor?
is Dante Pettis on the team?
No, would be my guess.
I would say no too.
But I mean, Jalen Hurd has played 1 game, right?
Now, I don't necessarily think this guy is going to be very difficult to make the team.
You don't think it would be difficult, or you do think it would be?
I think it would be very difficult for him.
Yeah, you're saying it's not a guarantee Jauan Jennings makes the team.
Well, yeah, I would say it would be an upset if he makes the team, especially when you factor in, I think it's fair to say, probably going to have less preseason games right this fall. Who knows what the preseason is going to look like to get reps. There is no off season. You know, a huge element to make the team as a 5th, 6th, 7th rounder is to get on the radar in the spring, just to make a couple plays in the spring. So then when the pads come on in the fall, you go, I mean, Kyle, I guess, would say it to himself because he's the offensive coordinator. Like, hey, let's see, or maybe say it was Wes Welker. Can we get Jauan? Can we run him with the 2s next practice? I want to see what he looks like. Can we get a couple reps with Jauan with Jimmy? Those, to me, those conversations, you get to training camp now, they haven't even started. You got to get the reps for your starters because you got to get ready for the season. I think a guy like him, quick hot take, not even a hot take, it just might. You're going to see a lot of guys get cut and be on practice squads their rookie years that maybe in like 4 or 5 years. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be this guy, but are just going to be starters for the team that might have made the team out of camp last year.
So maybe
but just given
maybe more guys that get cut signing with the team that cut them, as opposed to teams grabbing other teams' guys.
Now, I also think that if you really liked a guy in the draft and you didn't get him, and they cut a 5th rounder, yeah, I mean, it could be a little bit like the Wild Wild West. I guess what I'm saying, there are going to be mistakes made, and it's not necessarily going to be because it was an actual mistake at the time. It's just the guy wasn't good enough. We didn't have enough film. Especially if you're a playoff team, like our roster spots are limited. We can't risk like this guy not being ready to go. There's going to be a balance, right? Can we just inactive every game, or do we need those spots? And then we know how injuries crop up as the season goes. It's going to be a complicated matter for these guys that, let's just say hypothetically, they're 2 preseason games. The counter would be just play these guys the entire preseason game and see what you got, right?
Yeah, I mean, but teams aren't necessarily running back all the same rosters they had last year. The guys they added, who they think are going to be starters, might need to play with each other.
That's what I'm saying. It's
So, after watching this, do you think I think he's good value in the 7th round. I don't watch this and go, God, this guy should have gone in the 5th round. But I understand why there's some excitement around him after watching what we watched. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd be hard-pressed to see what they have in the 78th prospect or something. You can't tell me he's the 78th best prospect in this draft when you factor in all positions. Yeah, good value. Why not take a flyer on a big physical guy? Got no issue with it, but most of these flyers don't turn out to be much.
All right, let us know what you think of the pick and the video in the comments below.